Horror Movie Talk podcast is brought to you today by Social Experiments Gone Wrong. Social Experiments Gone Wrong takes great pride in what many would consider to be total travesties. They bear the cumbersome burden of messing up the lives of test subjects repeatedly with a wide array of research and development failures. Floods, famine, pandemics, platforms with food on it, and several hundred levels of hungry people who refuse to work together for the betterment of all. You name it. Social Experiments Gone Wrong has tested it. Social Experiments Gone Wrong. We mess up so real society doesn't have to. Hello, and welcome to Horror Movie Talk, an opinionated and accidentally funny horror movie review show. Go, 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 go.
Dr. Bryce Hansen, who holds a PhD in spookology.
I just took a stroll through the scraggly woods.
And Professor David Day, the foremost expert in scare no-nos.
Horror!
Sabrina, don't just stare at it, eat it.
New theatrical releases always get priority,
but we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible.
Wow, that didn't sound good. Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk, an opinionated and accidentally funny horror movie review show. Your panel of expert hosts each week are Dr. Bryce Hansen, who holds a PhD in spookology, and Professor David Day, the foremost expert in scare no-nos. New theatrical releases always get priority, but we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible. Horrible. That's Bryce. I'm David Day.
I'm Bryce Hansen. So are you going to do the full intro and the song?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't.
I thought the song would be
first question,
in place of the intro.
Yeah, the first question here is, did our listeners enjoy that intro music? Because I did. I did a lot. And that came to us by way of a young Zimzer on Instagram called Max_Allen 1235. That's at Max_Allen 1235 on Instagram. This Zimzer clearly fucks with the best of them, and if you enjoyed that track, please follow him on IG. Max is not bad to look at, if I'm totally honest, and he has that kind of youthful Catholic or maybe Lutheran look that is all the rave with older men and women these days. He's probably drowning in that cougar puss, if you know what I'm saying. Didn't leave a lot to the imagination on that.
Yeah, there's 1,234 other Max Allens that do not fuck as hard as him, but he fucks real hard, and he is another person that contributed creatively to the show just because he's a fan and he wants to help us out with our creative endeavor. And I can't imagine anything more I don't know, touching.
Yeah,
I just love Max and Dustin and Ben and whoever wants to contribute to the show. It helps out a lot.
No kidding. And if you guys would like to help us out by helping Max_Allen 1235 out, that would be great. Hit him up on Instagram. He needs work right now. He's very talented, and he's very happy to, try and get you what you want. So hit him up if you're looking for some audio work. He's your man. You guys can also check us out at our website, horrormovietalk.com. From there, you'll find links to all our social media. And, we got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, the Zim, the LinkedIn, YouTube, Reddit. Check out our Reddit. Keith has been posting essentially blogs on our Reddit. Just straight to the Reddit.
Yeah, I wish he would just post them on the site and then link them to the subreddit, but I'm not going to complain too much.
Well, he holds himself to a very high standard, Bryce. You don't understand.
Yeah, his blog posts on horrormovietalk.com are basically academic treaties on whatever subject he's going to write on. So, go to Horror Movie Talk subreddit and you'll see other stuff from him, and he's very knowledgeable and good source of information.
Yeah, his old versus new Candyman blog came out last week, and holy moly, it's a goddamn compendium. So yeah, check that out. We post new episodes every single Wednesday, so make sure to subscribe and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts, because that helps us out a whole gosh darn bunch. Today, we've got a great show for you guys. We will be talking about The Platform on Netflix, which released last week or the week before. Once this comes out, we'll start out by giving a brief review and our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a miserable dredge where it makes you angry, 5 being an average film that hits all the expected marks, and 10 being so good that it transcends genre boundaries. After we give our score, we'll get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film, and later in this episode we will be doing taglines and it came from social media, I think. Did you have anything else? I prepared this early.
I think that's it. We definitely need to hit up some new patrons at the end. Do thank yous at the end or right now.
Yeah, if you
how
want
grateful we want to be.
If you want to pull up some of that info for it came from social media, I would be eternally grateful. So today we are going to be talking about The Platform, which, as I said, released on Netflix, and we watched it with Bryce watched it with a bunch of HMT fans over the Chrome Netflix Party extension, and boy, I love this movie. While I'm certain that lots of purists will debate whether this is a horror movie or not, I assure you it's worth the watch and will definitely find some way to make your skin crawl. The timing of this release makes me wonder if Netflix just has a bunch of totally apropos titles just kind of waiting in the wings to be released whenever they're most relevant. So with that, let's get into the trailer.
There are 3 kinds of people. The ones above, the ones below, and the ones who fall.
So this is,
The pit. Bingo.
Mr. Trimagasi, do you know how this all works?
It's obvious. We must eat.
What will it be?
Whatever the ones above don't want.
It's disgusting. How many are below us?
Soon there will be less.
Was that a person?
Obviously, it was a person.
Nobody's gonna do anything!
If everybody ate only what they needed, the food would get to the lowest level.
Help me go down.
Down a suicide. Hunger will drive you mad. You have a big heart, but honestly, I don't think you'll survive for long.
So, The Platform is about a prison called the Pit, where there are 3 kinds of people: the ones above, the ones below, and the ones who fall. This is a twisted place where every cell contains 2 people and is stacked on top of a seemingly endless column of other cells. Every day, there's a massive banquet comprised of everyone in the prison's favorite dish. This banquet contains enough calories for everyone in the pit to survive. The catch is that the banquet is placed on a platform that stops.
So, first off, I have a question. Is that true? Does it have enough calories to support everyone?
That's kind of what I got. That's kind of what I got out of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was insinuated that if everybody just ate enough for themselves, there would be enough for everyone several times.
Yeah, but a lot of people assumed things that were also wrong in the end. So,
well, everybody in the prison is represented with a dish. Everybody in the prison gets a dish placed on the platform. We're getting too far into it. I have a feeling that you missed a lot because you watched it on Netflix Party and you're like, I'm trying to make jokes. Is that true?
Maybe.
So, the catch is that the banquet is placed on a platform that stops at every cell for a short time, and it starts at the top and it works its way down. So some prisoners are in the pit by choice, and some are there because of a crime, but there seems to be a promise that is made to all of them, regardless crime, no crime, upon entry, that if you do your time and make it out, you will be granted some sort of increased social standing. Our protagonist is a man called Goering, played by Ivan Masagua, who spends time with several of the inmates of the pit. As he learns the ropes, he also seems to take issue with the inherent societal problems that it represents, greed and desperation. So, The Platform is a Spanish film by Galder Gaztelu Urrutia. And it's one of the most unique ideas that I've seen put to the screen since the movie Cube. Minimal but rigid design of the aesthetic of the pit echoes in the sci-fi dystopian walls of the film itself. The sick and twisted world that lay in the base. Oh, let me start this over. You know the sick and twisted world that kind of lay in the basement of Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs? That terrifying and perverse reality that we like to forget exists in the real world, that feeling is magnified in, at least it was for me, in this movie, in The Platform. And it's kind of made the subject of the entire movie. To make it even more hard-hitting, The Platform is clearly a commentary on humans and society today. While it's hard to draw many direct analogies with the real world, the standout one seems to be human nature and the greed inherent therein. Also, there's a good argument to be made for, this is the problem with capitalism. The Platform is not without hope, but it is chock full of extreme violence, imagery, and ideas that make this a real stomach churner. This movie stays with me, and I wouldn't mind watching it again. It doesn't hold your hand, and there is clearly a lot of theorizing that one can do to try and determine the symbology and lessons within. What did you think of the movie, Bryce?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. It was a little heavy-handed in some stuff, in terms of the themes and whatnot, but it did enough with the premise that made it hold my interest. It feels very much like a student film concept of someone coming up with an idea before they realize that's not going to actually work on film. But the director is skilled enough that he does pull it off, and it seems not like just a hokey premise. I mean, you look at the last movie we reviewed was The Bye-Bye Man, which relied solely on the premise and didn't have any kind of plot or character development at all, and they just assumed the premise would be enough. And so this is one of those types of films that you would think that it's really going to rely on it. But yeah, there's enough going on that keeps your interest.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say it's a little heavy-handed, because I mean that's basically it's the whole film, right? It's the purpose of the film is to kind of make a point, and it's not clumsy about it, really, is it? Would you say it is?
No, it's not clumsy. It's just it's not subtle.
No, definitely
is what I'm
not.
saying. There's no subtlety to what it's trying to say with what the platform is. It's a little more subtle with what it's saying the quote unquote message is. And that's so much so that it's not really clear at the end. But you know, it's kind of this weird game it's playing that it's like tells you, you know, this is the message, and you get everything about the film, and then it leaves that one thing kind of like, well, what does it actually mean by that?
Right.
And so you feel dumb by saying like, well, I didn't get it because the rest of it's so obvious, you know?
Right. Yeah.
At least for me.
Well, I think that's part of the point, though. I think you've like stumbled upon the point, which is like in so many words, it's really complicated and it's hard to know and it's a moving target. You know, it's like this is the purpose or this is the message. It changes several times. It's vague and it's hard for people to completely understand, and because it deals with people and people they're messy. Anyway,
right.
So I gave it a score of 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed this. I actually watched it twice. What about you?
I give it a 7 out of 10. It's not my favorite, but it's creative and like really visually appealing. And
yeah, it's very pretty.
Lots of stuff happens that's just yeah, I mean, it held my interest. It's good. It's not like amateurish. So yeah, I think it's a solid good movie.
Yeah, I think that it will upset people with strong political opinions one way or another. Either upset them or delight them. You know, it's kind of one of these things where it's like if you can't separate your viewing experience at least a little bit from your politics, then there's a chance you could fall real hard on one side or the other.
I'd say that freshman college students are going to love this movie.
Oh, yeah, they're going to fucking eat
Freshman
it up.
college students are going to cream all over their pants. just about. They're like, yeah, man, this movie gets it.
Yeah.
That's what the problem is in society, man, is the platform. And then you just realize, like, yeah, it's a little more complicated than that. But, you know, there's a lot of truth in what it's saying, in that life is not fair. Society is not set up to give everyone an equal footing, and a lot of the inequity is created by each other.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So with that, let's get into an emergency alert. Horror Movie Talk reviews new movies, and that means we rely heavily on theaters, and our favorite theaters are the small, privately owned ones in our community. During this corona shutdown, all of these theaters are in serious jeopardy. Horror Movie Talk has decided to help these theaters the only way we know how, which is to feature them in our podcast. Today, we'd like to help Cinema 21, again, at 616 Northwest 21st Avenue, Portland, Oregon. Cinema 21 plays many independent and hard-to-find movies that allow us to bring you reviews of fabulous horror movies like The House That Jack Built and Color Out of Space. They're privately owned and struggling to survive the shutdown. This is a great place. You can buy local beer, enjoy a tasty snack, and feel like you're in the Cineplex from the 1970s. Dropping $10, $25, $50, or $100 here is a great Friday night experience, so please help us keep Cinema 21 open by going to cinema21.com and clicking on the gift certificates link. I believe it's just on the homepage. And as soon as they reopen, they'll be happy to honor your gift card. And guys, if you have a local theater near you, consider reaching out to them and seeing what you can do to help. So, like I was saying, that's cinema.
Yeah, we've been partnering with a couple other podcasts local to Portland, notably Scariest Things we've mentioned before. And they actually have a blog post on their site, scariestthings.com, with only one T in the middle. And they've got a blog that features a bunch of independent theaters across the country. So maybe you can go there and see if there's one near you, or really, you probably know what the independent theaters are near you. Just find their website and go, and I guarantee you they will have an option to buy a gift card in this time if they're closed down. And there's no reason not to. If you love movies, you're going to go to these theaters anyways. And
you know what would be really helpful
with some cash flow issues.
You know what would be really helpful is if everyone who goes to support their local theater just tells them, oh yeah, Horror Movie Talk was talking about you on their podcast. Just whatever theater it is, just be like, Horror Movie Talk told me to come support you guys. Because, I mean, we did. We told you to go support your local theater. So the more exposure we can get, that helps us, and, you know, by virtue of you helping them. So whoever they are, tell them we sent you. If you
on the Horror Movie Talk website, we have links to the gift cards for Cinema 21 down at the bottom of the homepage, and then on the sidebar on any of the posts.
That is true. Yeah, and if you guys would like to support Horror Movie Talk, you can do so by heading to our website, horrormovietalk.com. At the top of the page there are two links. One is for Patreon, where you can, you know, choose any number of support methods on Patreon, a couple of which I should say, get you access to a whole nother podcast where we just leave the mics running. It's called the Afterpod, and we record it after this podcast. The other link on horrormovietalk.com will bring you to Amazon. I know you're all buying things on Amazon right now. I know I am. And if you go ahead and click that link and just bookmark it and use it to every time you need to do shopping on Amazon, then we get a cut of your expenses on Amazon. And that helps us out a great deal as well. If you guys, Shudder is seeing record numbers of new subscriptions right now. That's SHUDDER.com. They are a horror movie streaming platform. And if you enter HMT at checkout, you can get a 30-day free trial instead of that dumb fucking 7-day free trial that I wish would burn in hell and be stabbed a million times. You can also support our resident artist, Dustin Goebel, who is a professional artist who fucks very, very, very hard. So hard that it'll leave whatever orifice you had
Jesus
as just a steaming crater. He also takes commissions for artwork from HMT fans. So make sure to contact him at dgoebel00. That's at DGOEBEL00 on Instagram, and make your artistic dreams come true. If you guys could go over to his Instagram right now and show him some love, talk him up, make him, ask him about his dick, and what
it's coated in Teflon for your pleasure.
Yeah. So you guys make sure to support him, and I believe it's Max_Allen1235. That kid, he fucks real hard on the audio track. Him and I, we haven't hooked up yet, so not sure the amount of craterage that your orifices will be left in, but I'm sure it's somewhere in there.
Yeah. So he's asking us to tell you that he would love to work with more people. So let me see what he says here. I really could use things to keep me busy now. So if anyone listening wanted something made, I would be interested in doing it for them. So, I mean, he does good work, and he definitely will work with you until you're happy. I mean, he just approached us and said, "Hey, I'd love to to do an intro for you, and he was very reasonable in that he's like, I know I'm just a stranger. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it. It's like I won't be offended. And he comes back with just a smash like hit out of the park.
A goddamn hit factory.
So we're really happy to plug him and help him get more work. So reach out to Max_Allen1235 on Instagram as well.
So with that, let's get into spoilers. I don't have the spoilers drop, so you're just gonna have to imagine that I played it already. Bryce,
here, I can play it. Just a second.
You can?
Spoilers.
So the level of complication that this whole thing has put on Horror Movie Talk is profound. You guys, we could not use your support. There's not a time where we could use your support more. This is getting crazy. I'm at my house. If this episode ends up being funky, I'm really sorry. I think it's going to end up being okay, but just putting that out there. Bryce is at his house. I'm at my house. We're encouraging everyone to,
Yeah, the last episode we did separately, kind of as an April Fool's joke that wasn't, necessarily super funny. It's a little more subtle than the platform, but honestly, it doesn't seem like that bad of an idea after how rough this morning was.
Okay, and so no more talking about things that could jinx the recording. Not that that's the reason. This coronavirus is just really upsetting.
Yeah, we're on the struggle bus today. So we'll forge on.
Let's see if this drop shows up.
That is really super. How did a nitwit like you get so tasteful?
I think it did. That's good. So the first part of this movie is interesting, or this movie, I should say, is interesting because it really withholds information from you, and kind of like keeps it at a steady drip of like tidbits that it gives you moving your way through the whole thing. And to me, I love a movie that does that because it holds my very short attention span. Because I'm like, what? I'm like, what's the next thing? What are they gonna tell me about next? And I don't know. Did that bother you at all, or how did it take you?
No, yeah, it's good. I mean, it's definitely that kind of movie that doesn't give you any information and slowly reveals. And it's just a choice, and it works most of the time, so it's a good choice. I think it's really, really propped up by the fact that the actor that plays Trimagasi is fantastic. Like he really commands the scene whenever he's talking, and a lot of the first half of the film is him just saying, like, him conveying that he gets it and he understands how it works, and the young guy doesn't, and so you're kind of hanging on his every word to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, the casting in this movie was spot on, and we should mention that it is, like I said earlier, it is a Spanish movie. And
yeah, I thought it was French for some reason. I even said that in the Netflix party. I was like, this movie is so French. But it ended up being Spanish. So I was like, oh, okay.
I think it was because of the snails. I think it was because of the dish. Yeah, the escargot.
They talked about escargots, like the central piece of it was like French cuisine, basically.
Yeah.
The centerpiece was cuisine.
Yeah.
And yeah, but so yeah, I mean, this is a really creative movie. I think like Spanish horror, I guess this is out of Spain, so it's not really close relationship to anything out of South America. But I mean, out of the couple Spanish movies that we've reviewed, we love both of them, I think.
Yeah, Rec is also Spanish. That's a great one. There was another one that was, I can't remember the name of it, but it has stuck with me so much, that was Spanish, and it was a found footage movie, and it was about a maze or a house that had a maze next to it kind of thing. Spanish horror, does it for me for some reason.
Yeah, and of course, Terrified.
Oh yes, Aterrados. Yeah, it's that one has been that's been the best to us.
Yeah, that's consistently our top. We get the most traffic on our website to that review.
So yeah, as you were saying, Tremagasi, he's kind of the narrator through at least the first half, and even beyond there, a little bit. And he kind of lays out the rules, like what the platform is, and he just keeps a drip going of information. He's like, and he follows everything up, all of his explanations with, obviously it's this way. Isn't this obvious to you? Isn't it so obvious to you? Which is another kind of little social commentary sort of thing. It's like the guy who has the system figured out, right? And to him, it's all so obvious. And to everybody else, it's not so obvious. But to him, oh, well, look at it. You can just see it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like curveballs that they throw at you. And one of the first ones is that they start out on level 48.
Yeah.
And then you're told that, I can't remember if you're told how many levels there are, but I feel like it's revealed at some time that there's 200.
It's slowly revealed. They keep revealing that there are more and more, right?
Right.
Because your first inclination is to be like, how many levels are there? And then they give you, well, there's at least, 200, and then it continues, and eventually we get a solid answer on how many there are.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that they're on like level 48 or whatever, and you're trying to do the math in your own head of like, okay, so did we describe what happens, what the rules are? That should probably be.
I have the rules.
Talk about that first.
Yeah, I have the rules here. So go ahead.
So they're in this cell block with a hole in the floor and a hole in the ceiling, and they can see all the cells above and below pretty much. And through that hole is a magical slab of concrete that descends with a full banquet laid out on it. And I say full banquet, but it's like a ravaged full banquet because everyone above them gets to eat first, and they're a bunch of monsters, and then it's just like the leftovers that they get, and then they get 2 minutes to eat, and then the platform descends through the hole to the next cell below. And so the people at the top eat as much as they want, and then by the time it gets to the bottom, there's nothing. And so there's a lot of violence and stuff that happens at the lower levels because, they're starving. And at the upper levels, they think they're better. But the main thing is that it randomly assigns people what level they're on, and they switch it every month. So it's like a random chance thing, and it's not fair. So they start out on level 48.
Garen starts out on 48.
What?
That's where we, as the audience, start out. You should mention.
So you're trying to do the math of like, okay, so there's cells above and cells below, and they're on 48. So when they talk about cells above, I assumed that it counted up from 48. So the next level up would be 49, 50, yada, yada, yada.
Well, that's just foolish.
And because you see the food coming down, and you're like, oh man, they're getting the scraps. Like they are scraping the bottom of the barrel once they get to level 48, because there's only 47 below them. And then it's revealed that no, it's the opposite. It starts at 1 and counts up as the platform descends, which is the first like little twist that I feel it's pretty subtle, how they're playing with your expectations there. But then it reveals like, oh yeah, like this banquet is pretty ravaged by the time it gets past the first couple floors. There's a lot to be grossed out by in this movie, and it starts with like the first thing that really hits you is, my God, like this quote unquote banquet has just been diminished into a pile of like mixed food. It's just it's like a trough mixed with like broken glass kind of, and clearly gone through by someone else. It's like dumpster diving kind of. Right. And this dude, what's his name? Trimagasi, he just goes at it. He like just dives in. He's like, oh, yeah, this is great food. Like, isn't it great that we get to eat? And Goering is just repulsed. I want to add to some of the rules that you laid out. So everyone who is admitted into the prison is asked what their favorite meal is, and that meal is added to the platform. So there's a meal for everyone on the platform, or at least a dish. You can, when the platform stops for you, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't keep any food. Once the platform continues its descent, if you have any food that you're like saving for later, they either raise or lower the temperature until you die, or give the people below the food back. Okay, I'm going to push back. I don't remember them saying everyone's allowed their favorite meal. Well, then you did not watch that part of the movie, because it happened. Well, they're asked what their item is. They bring an item. No, yes, that too. They're all allowed an item as well. But I assure you, you missed a part. Okay. Where, geez, Bryce, you got it. Well, I mean, I'm just doing the math. Looking at that platform, that is not enough. That's not. Well, I mean, we're in the spoiler section. That is not 666 dishes. I mean, if you're going to serve a banquet of 660 people, you would need more food than they were displaying. I'm just doing the math with the visual, so I must have missed something in the dialogue. Yeah, as she was interviewing him, or once he gets his second cellmate, she explains the principle of how that works. But a month is spent on each level. So each group of cellmates, each pair of cellmates spends 1 month on each level, and like Bryce said, your level is chosen at random. So it's just a roll of the dice each time where you're going to end up. You could end up on 1, and you could end up on the lowest level, which later in the movie we learn is 333. So if you double 333, you get 666. That's, like Bryce said, how many prisoners are in the prison, or how many could fit in the prison. Prisoners who die are given a new cellmate at the start of the new month, basically. And and two last final rules: anything goes. Anything goes within the pit. You're allowed to kill. You're allowed to. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever you want to do. You can poop on the platform. You can do anything you want. And totally random chance determines your cellmate and the following cell level, like I said before. And everybody gets an item. Goering, the item that our main character brings is a book, is Don Quixote. I love how you said that. Don Quixote? Yeah. How's it pronounced? I just hear it as Donkey Hody from you. Yeah, it's Don Quixote.
Yeah, which is... Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's in and of itself. So the Don Quixote is important because it's kind of its own socioeconomic commentary, because the main character is a believer in equal rights. And the interesting thing about this movie is all the prisoners have equal rights. Like, this is an equal rights. The pit is equal rights. Everybody gets the same amount of rights, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could also make the argument, the obvious parallel with the setup of the platform is this represents capitalism. Mm-hmm. And you say, like, there's people above that with all the wealth, and they're shitting on, like, sometimes literally shitting on people below them.
Right.
The other way I was just thinking about right now, you could look at this could also represent any political like ideology, because I mean, there's people starving in communist countries, and why are they starving? Because the people with the access first take all of the stuff. I mean,
yeah, I think.
I mean, there's oligarchies and stuff in communist countries and socialist countries. Like, there's definitely still inequality, and that's because people are shitty.
Right. I think the low-hanging fruit here is to compare this movie to a political commentary, which, yeah, it's very easy to do, but I think it's more constructive to compare it to human nature, right? I mean, human nature dictates greed, and that's the basis of kind of the problem with humanity, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can even say human nature dictates politics, which is
sure. Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have quote unquote politics in whatever system you choose, and politics is always going to be about power.
Right. Yeah, and like everybody in this prison is very rigidly given equal rights. Like, no one is allowed to keep food for later. They're all required to leave it on the platform when the platform leaves. No one is given preferential treatment in terms of, like, maybe getting put on level 1 twice intentionally. Nope, it's random chance every time. So what that kind of shows us is that, equal rights is different from the equality of outcomes, right? So some people get a bad roll of the dice every time. Just by random chance, they just get a shit hand every time.
The other thing is, like, now that I'm thinking about it, the platform only stays there for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's some short amount of time.
How much can you eat in 2 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Like, I don't know.
Could you get all the calories that you would need in a day in 2 minutes? Like, I mean, you could even just make the argument that it's set up to make it so that there's food by the time it gets to the bottom, but somehow the people at the top still find their way to make it bad for everyone below them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's yeah, it's impressive.
I don't know if it's actually 2 minutes. It could be a little bit longer than that. But it does not seem like a long amount of time for sure. It seems like it's under the 10-minute mark.
Yeah, it says 2 minutes on the IMDb, so I don't know if they said it explicitly in the movie or not.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I found that. Well, all of that is pretty interesting to me. Just the commentary on human nature and how it's like it's baked in, there's no escaping it, unless we all kind of are either forced to work together or have some sort of awakening together, right?
Yeah, unless everyone gets the message.
Right. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big part of the movie is that is at the center of it, there's a bunch of people arguing and philosophizing about how to solve this problem that is the platform. And we hear the phrase repeatedly, this is the message, because you have to, everyone has to get on board with whatever solution you're trying to portray. And so at different times it says like, this is the message. It's, it's
a dish. It's a single dish that we're going to send back to the people who make the food to show them that we stand in solidarity against them or something like that.
Yeah. So the lady that was working for the government or whatever that comes in, like her message was, basically just fairness, like saying, pass it down. Like I've created your dish for you. You
please do that for the people below you.
Yeah, please do that for the people below you. That's the message. And then the next like cellmate he has is the one where it really, they really focus in on the message, which is they're going to ride down all the way and protect this one dish, the panicote, which is, it looks just like a delicate dessert.
Yeah.
And they're going to take it all the way to the bottom so everyone understands that this is the message, that we can make it all the way to the bottom with food.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. As you're bringing that up, I'm starting to realize that there's like a little bit of a thing going on here with some people think that the answer is to send the message down the chain, right? And sending the message down to the people below you is essentially trying to appeal to the human nature within the people, your equals or those who are quote unquote lesser than you.
Right.
And trying to like talk down to people, trying to teach down. And then some people think that the correct method is to send a message up to the people at the top, right? So the people who control the prison get the message, and then they're allowed to distribute some form of equality because the people below have reached some sort of consensus, and that's supposed to mean something. But neither one seems to we don't know how sending the message up works out because the movie ends, but neither one seems to be ideal.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you see the people below appealing to those above, you see, I mean, it never really works out, but the reactions you see are people saying, well, I guess above and below. So everyone involved has probably experienced or will experience being at the bottom and experiencing at the top. So if you're down at like level 150 for the last month and you were practically starved to death, once you get up to one of the higher levels, you feel like you deserve to be on the higher level because you suffered. And so if someone's going to ask you like, no, you got to just eat a little and then send the rest down so everyone can have some. And you're like, yeah, but I almost starved to death. So I think I'm just going to do what I want to do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's everyone's short-sighted and everyone like can't look beyond the immediate moment in which they have access.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and really it seems like the quote unquote answer to this whole thing is everybody has to come to a similar realization at once, right? All the people above, all the people below, and the people who run the prison. Everybody has to have a like mind, and it's very difficult for that to happen. There's constructs in the way of so if everybody in the prison is on the same page, but the prisoner owners aren't, well, you're still in prison, you know? And so it's a very difficult thing to work your way out of, but
yeah, this is a movie where the premise really breaks down when you think systematically, like, or when you think outside of the situation, because why would anyone volunteer for it? Like, I guess
the
that's
promise
like
of an increased social standing.
Yeah, it says they'll get a official diploma or whatever, but you're not told what the world outside is like.
Right.
And if this is better or worse, really, to be honest. I mean, who knows what kind of dystopian reality is in the outside world of the platform. But really, when you think about it, like, why would anyone choose to do it?
Well, I mean,
why would it be set up this way? Like, what's the purpose of the platform? And is it literally to get people to kill themselves, you know?
Right.
Because when you think about it that way, the premise doesn't make sense, but that's not important. What's important is the message of the film,
right.
Which is people are shitty, and this is kind of how we relate to each other.
It's
in
a
different
lens
social standings
that we can use to look at, to simplify our situation and look at it in a kind of, isn't this fucked up sort of tint on that lens.
Right.
You know? So let's get back to the movie. So Goering initially signed up for the pit in order to receive 2 degrees that, you know, he'll supposedly be able to give him increased social standing, and he wanted to stop smoking too. And so, you know, he's got what's the first guy's name? Trimagasu? Yeah,
Trimagasi or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. He introduces him to the whole idea, and then so they make it through level 48, and then they're put on a much lower level. It's like 80 or something like that. And every time that Goering, that the month changes, Goering is taken off guard. Right, he's taken by surprise. So his cellmate gets the jump on him. Trimagasi has him tied up as he wakes up, and he's like, "Look, shit's going to be real rough down here. I tied you up because I'm old and you can overpower me. And I'm a kind and benevolent cellmate. I'm just going to eat little bits of you once I start getting really hungry. And I don't know when that'll be, but
I'll throw you some of your thigh meat to yourself too.
Yeah,
so you can keep living.
You can keep living by eating you too. So as you can see, within the system, I'm very fair. And I won't kill you. I'll make sure that we get through this together. And kind of, it's fucked up. You know, it's like, oh yeah. Then you start to realize the way people down below survive is they kill each other and then eat each other. And
that's really the only way to survive.
Right. Yeah. It's real bad.
Is to eat your cellmate's moldering corpse for a month.
And lots of people have come into the pit with having made the wise decision of bringing a weapon with them instead of a book.
Right.
So,
I realize now that, when they switch them out in cells, they gas them, right?
Yeah.
And knock them out. Someone should have chosen the one item to be a gas mask.
Oh, dang.
And so they could just ambush the people that were coming into the cell to move them. Because, is there a hidden door that they could run out of? Or is there like a ladder that they could steal?
There's got to be.
So on the Netflix party, the question was asked, what would be your one item? What would be your one item that you would bring to the platform, David?
Me?
Yeah.
Probably one of those fake vaginas.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like a huge waste because you have your hand.
Well, maybe if there was one that had like a hole and a dildo on it. Because I just want to distract my cellmate, really.
You know, that's a good question, because if there's like a cucumber on the platform to eat, like you can't, part of it is if you hold on to food as the platform is descending, it will heat up the room to kill you. But
if it's inside your body,
if it's inside your body, if you just insert it rectally, would that give you a pass to where you could just shit it out and then eat it like later?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like
it's a question for the ages, for sure.
There's a lot of things that they didn't explore in the platform, which they can use in the sequel. You know, they can contact me for ideas.
So there's a lot more to this movie. I kind of.
Well, wait, don't you want to know my item?
Yeah. What's your item?
I would get a fork. So they're always eating everything with their hands. Sounds like pretty bad. I'd rather just use a fork. That's the joke. A couple of the other answers in the Netflix party, Jess had the great answer of a ladder, which is pretty genius. And then immediately after that, the guy with the rope appeared in the movie, which basically had the same idea of like, hey, I'll climb up using this rope, which is a pretty good idea. And then someone else said, I could probably pull it up. Hold on. Okay, so other answers on the Netflix party. Sarah said a dog if it was able to be allowed. And then which I responded,
there was a dog.
Yeah. She wasn't the only one that thought of it. To which I responded, good thinking, you can eat a dog. I think that was all of them. So yeah, ladder, a dog, and mine was a fork. Okay, we can move on now.
So we're introduced to kind of an X factor within the pit named Miharu. She's a woman who rides the platform in search of her child, who may or may not exist. We don't know if the child exists. We're not 100% sure on that. But she kind of just sits quietly on the platform and rides it as it descends down, 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 down. And anybody who tries to fuck with her, she kills savagely. She's pretty intense. And early in the movie, Goring, our protagonist, shows her kindness, and that's not forgotten by her. And eventually, so at some point, she's descending the platform, and Goring is being nibbled on by his first cellmate, and she jumps off the platform and helps him get the guy off of him, and he kills Trimagasi, and ends up eating him, as you do. And so now he's kind of like pot committed. Before he had like a holier than thou kind of outtake on everything, like he's above it. But now that he's not only committed murder but eaten the guy, he's kind of in it to win it, I guess you'd say. It's hard to have a stance once you've done something like that, right?
Right.
And his next cellmate is essentially the woman who admitted him into the prison. She's like the screener who sheds a lot of light on the prison, a lot of which we've already talked about for him. Her item,
a lot of exposition comes from her, and she also adds a lot of uncertainty because she is the one that says, "I think there's 200 levels," which we find out is not true. So it seems like she knows a lot about it, but she doesn't. And she is the one that says, "Oh, this Mira, what's her name? Mira something.
It's Miharu. Can you hear me?
Miharu. Okay, so she's the one that says Miharu came in alone and she doesn't have a child.
Right.
Yeah, so all of those things end up being wrong. So what does she know? She's the one that brings the dog, and she eventually... Does she kill herself? Is that what happened? How did she die? No, Miharu, they attack each other and Miharu kills her.
What? No.
Isn't that what happens?
No, I believe no. His second cellmate kills herself. She hangs herself.
That's right. Miharu eats her dog. Isn't that what it is? And then she kills herself?
Something like that, I believe. Let's see here. And then his third cellmate is Baharat. This is his final cellmate. And his deal is he brought a rope with him, and he wishes to escape the pit with a rope. And he shows up on level 6. So he's like really close to the top. I don't know what his plan is to get from level 1 to the tippy top, but it doesn't work out. He throws the rope to level 5, and he's like, "Hey, pull me up." And they're like, "Okay." And so as he's climbing the rope, this dude pulls down his pants and shits in his face.
Yeah. There's a lot of great scenes in this movie. A lot of every time when people are shitty to each other, it's actually, I mean, it's hard not to take a little delight as a viewer.
Hang on, I'm gonna play a drop.
I mean, I guess I'm a pretty sick guy.
Just played a drop. Bryce can't hear a lot of my drops, so I have to tell him, "Hey, I'm about to do the thing." So, with Baharat, Goering and Baharat decide they will impose their will and try to send a message to the people at the top. And so they end up riding the platform down and defending food and kind of metering it out, making sure everybody gets their bit. And they kind of go, well, we're going to, like Bryce said, they're going to keep one dish pristine to send as a message up to the top. This is the message. And then once they fight everybody off brutally and reach the bottom level 333, they're greeted by the little kid. So Miharu's little kid is there hiding under a bed, and at this point, Baharat dies. He has been mortally wounded by a cut on his thigh or something like that. And Goring takes the little girl down into even below the prison. So that the platform descends, and he sends the little girl back up. That little girl is the message. And I think the best way I could interpret that was that hey, look, there wasn't supposed to be any kids being taken advantage of in your prison, but here it exists. Look at how the equality within your prison is not even in touch, because there's no kids allowed in here, and yet look, there's a little kid here, and that's not fair at all. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I interpreted it. How did it take you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it's trying to say, or I mean, it's definitely for the people outside of the prison, because that platform like shoots up like a freaking rocket. It's not something that other prisoners are going to be able to see.
Yeah.
I envisioned I envisioned that the platform was just going to splatter at the top of the roof.
I know, me too.
Just like there's just going to be another concrete block where it's like, that's the message. And that would have been a great end of the movie, which is just like, boom. Yeah. I'm like, oh, it's all meaningless. I think that's really what the actual message of this movie is. I mean, the message of what the platform is within the movie is one thing, but the message of this movie is it's pretty hopeless and life is pointless, and it's a losing game.
You're just bending it to fit the thing that you want it to fit. I mean, if for those of you who don't know, that's Bryce's motto, basically.
Right.
Our intro used to be that Bryce was a nihilist.
Yeah, I mean, is it not true?
I mean, there's so many different ways
to. Girl, what does that actually mean? Like, what is the message that tells? Like, oh, stuff is happening here that you don't understand. Okay.
A lot of people would interpret it in a hopeful way, I think.
I mean, Yeah, I don't know. I think you don't need to know any more information about the platform to say that it's a horrible thing. Like, you don't have to show that. Oh my gosh, there's a little girl in there. Oh, I thought it was just adults that were eating each other and killing each other and shitting on each other and not letting each other eat. Like, yes. Oh well, now it's bad.
Sure, I don't think, but like I said, I think that the ending moment of sending the little girl up is intended to inspire hope.
Sure,
but I don't know. It's hard to say, and I this is part of the thing that I like about movies like this is they inspire this kind of conversation, which is
it's a good conversation starter, and it's got enough of like weird, like structural things that if you poke at it, it's like, okay, well this doesn't hold up in the real world,
right?
So like, what does that mean for the film? And when you look farther beyond maybe the first couple surface levels, then it just breaks down.
Yeah,
which you can do it. You can do in any movie, but this one is a little more interesting to do it with.
Yeah, there's a couple different allegories that you can kind of draw here. There's like the socioeconomic allegory of capitalism plays no favorites. There's the very obvious hell allegory, which is 666 prisoners. Maybe that means capitalism is hell or something like that. Maybe they're trying to say something like that, or maybe it's just like human nature is look how fucked up it is. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's just people with more opportunity shit on people with less.
Yeah, that seems safe to say. Let's see here. So, who would you recommend this movie to?
I mean, I think it's. I wouldn't turn anyone away from it, especially because it's low-hanging fruit. It's on Netflix. I'm trying to think of what other movies it's like.
Have you seen Cube?
No.
It's worth it. It's hard to get into because the first bit of it it's interesting, but it's like very 1997 interesting, so it's like
Yeah, I think here's yeah, if you like dystopian stuff or
Gattaca,
a lot of these, Gattaca, if you like actually these movies based off of young adult novels, like what's it called, The Hunger Games, and some of those other young adult novels where it's like, or The Maze Runner or whatever, like the ones where they're in a situation and society has put them in it and it's shitty and they have to, it's like dog eat dog kind of thing. It's definitely within that genre. But yeah, it's an interesting movie. You should watch it with friends or with your spouse or partner or whatever, because it'll inspire a lot of conversation.
Yeah,
and it's not too long. It's like an hour and a half, isn't it?
Yeah, it's easy. It's not easy content, but it's definitely it's enjoyable. I mean, it's some of the most fun I've had with like original Netflix stuff. Oh man, Ozarks is out. Oh baby, Ozark.
Have you not watched the new season yet?
I'm almost through it.
Yeah, we just finished it last night. Anyways, this movie, I'd say if you like it, you're gonna enjoy it and enjoy talking about it. And if you hate it, you're also going to enjoy talking about it.
Yes.
There's no downside really to watching the platform.
That is accurate. Hey, would you mind playing the Taglines intro?
Sure, just a second.
Here's Tagline. sounded like it petered out into like some weird, sounded like somebody peeing in a sink.
Oh, really? You couldn't hear it?
Oh, I could hear most of it. But we'll see how it ends up on the recording. Anyway, so do you have some taglines?
Yeah. I've got a couple. Some of them are sound clips, so we'll see if that works.
Okay, do it.
Okay. Taglines the platform.
Yeah, I should mention taglines is a bit where we come up with new, interesting, funny, terrible taglines to go along with the movie that we are talking about. So with that, take it away.
Okay, the platform.
That didn't come through at all.
Oh, it didn't? Hold on.
Do you want to do a different tagline?
I mean, I've got one that's not a sound clip. So, the platform. I don't know. It's
You better do it.
The platform. The Hunger Games Part 2.
That's so bad.
I know.
Okay. I love it. Oh, man. Okay, here, I'm going to adjust my levels up a little bit here. Okay.
Sabrina, don't just stare at it, eat it.
It was, Sabrina, don't just stare at it, eat it.
Yeah, I heard that one.
Oh, you heard it?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So my other two are very bad. Very, very bad. Here we go. The platform. Down and down and down we go, but who will save our food-hungry soul? Oh my God, this is true torture. It's like we're in the platform. Okay, and finally, sure, the platform is about the socioeconomic and ethical quandary we find ourselves in, but it's also about a very real threat to us all: platforms.
That's good.
Is it? The answer, no. So with that, let's get into our final bit. It came from social media, which I don't think we'll be able to intro, or maybe we will. Let's see here. Came from social media is a bit where we talk about what happened to us over the week on social media with you guys. And man, there's just been a whole lot of stuff going on. There's been some Scandinavian banter going on Facebook. Magnus has been talking to Johanna R, and they've been talking about like kind of like Scandinavia's additions to the horror genre. I mentioned Let the Right One In, or Let the Right One In. That's a Swedish one. That's one of my favorites. And then there's the Finnish one that we reviewed this Christmas. What was it called, Bryce? Rare Exports.
Rare Exports, yeah. Yeah.
And so they've been talking about that. Also, you guys should you can find Johanna R on our Facebook. You should check out her page, and she does some horror movie reviews on her Facebook page, so you should probably check those out. Man, I'm so bummed out that I didn't get to talk to Magnus on the call last week. That seemed like it would have been really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was nice.
Yeah, it was a good call. It was funny when he asked the question, why didn't you just call him on Skype? Why didn't you just include him on the Skype call? Because I was like, oh yeah. And you were too.
Yeah. Our Scandinavian listenership, it's small but mighty. Like they're definitely pretty vocal. So there's Magnus, Johanna, and on YouTube there's the user. It's like every day is Rex Manning Day.
Yeah, that's Johanna.
That's Johanna?
I believe so. Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How did you know that?
Because I talked to her on YouTube.
Huh. Okay. Well, that makes sense then.
Yeah. She's finished. They're finished. And
okay, so
she admitted to it on YouTube.
I thought we had 3. Now we just have 2. Now I feel less good. But thank you so much for talking to us, Magnus and Johanna. I feel like I'm missing someone else. There should be someone else on Facebook, isn't there? That's Scandinavian? Maybe not.
I'm not sure. If you are, you should tell us about you right now. Reach out to us on Facebook. We got some new pages.
Just commented on your review of the Bye Bye Man. She says, "Was David's review an April Fool's joke?"
Dude, here's the thing.
That's a good question because you gave it a 5.
Well, here's the thing: is like I sat through it and I paid attention to it, and it, this falls into 5 territory for me because it's just a dumb fucking name a slasher that makes a good amount of sense. There aren't many, and I don't know.
There's one thing. There's a slasher, like a generic slasher, where the person doesn't really have motivation, but they're coming to kill you, and that kind of is the point. But then the Bye Bye Man, it's supposed to have like a backstory and a point and rules, but it never tells you any of that. And so it's pointless for no reason, It just
doesn't bother me though, I mean, like that's the thing that it's not good. But it didn't bother. I could probably be convinced to come down a point to about a 4, but in general, I don't know. It just felt like just blah, just kind of.
I'm surprised that you could say it's an average film because it's bad. Like it doesn't explain anything. That people's actions are really dumb, like really dumb, and it just doesn't.
That's just like your opinion, man. Hey, we got 2 new patrons.
Yeah, we do. We have some thank yous to read out. We've already mentioned Johanna. She is a new patron this month, so thank you so much, Johanna. She's also joined by Josh K. I think we've mentioned before. I think we mentioned some of these people before, but I just want to
mentioned Josh K.
Say again?
Yeah, we mentioned Josh K, but Jason is new.
Yeah, Jason is new. I have a list here. I know we've mentioned them before, but I just want to. Oh, I can hear myself. I just want to make sure that we officially thank these people. So Kitty R, Josh K, Gabriel K, and Johanna R are all patrons that fuck hard, and we appreciate you for supporting the show.
Yeah, big time, guys. We appreciate it. We got some new ratings on iTunes. Let's see here. The Horror 256 says discovered this I think I already mentioned this one last episode. Anyway, they say discovered this podcast over at the Reddit Horror Discord server and really enjoyed it. Looking forward to listening to more episodes. Albuquerque Doctor says, I'm so glad I found a new horror movie podcast. I'm a regular listener to Horror Movie Podcast and Land of the Creeps, and this is another excellent podcast. There's one more. Did you want to read it?
From Emma Time?
Yeah.
From just this last Tuesday. She says I won't assume gender anymore because I've been burnt by that before. This person named Emma Time, like the spice or like the herb thyme, gave us 5-star reviews titled "Love This!" 3 exclamation points. This podcast is such a breath of fresh air. The hosts have great chemistry and really display a strong knowledge of the horror community. I don't think we really do, but thank you. And what films are out in theaters. I love the fact that they review old and new releases as well as play fun games that have to do with horror. I highly recommend listening to this podcast ASAP. It's totally bingeable and very entertaining.
Putting us halfway to our goal of 200 ratings on iTunes or podcast.
We're sitting at 102 ratings right now. So if we can get to... So if this week we could get to 200, that'd be great. So if you could just leave a rating, ask everyone you know to leave a rating, and then approach several strangers and ask them to leave a rating for Horror Movie Talk, I think we could get there.
Oh, well, you know.
Yeah, I hope so. It'd be great. Is there anything else you wanted to... I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of stuff pulled up for. It came from social media. I'd really like to share this episode with Cinema 21 and see if we can get them to share it with their listener or their Facebook audience because they have a pretty big one. If you guys wanted to share this episode with Cinema 21 in Portland, Oregon, that would help us out a lot.
Let's see. We've got a couple people that I talked to on Twitter. So All Elite Kyle, his Twitter handle is, man, Twitter really sucks. Hold on. His Twitter handle is @KyleSPrescott. He talked with me a little bit. He said he just recently started listening and really enjoyed the Taking of Deborah Logan review. His favorite horror movie of all time is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I've heard that a lot from people that I've talked to on social media, and I keep saying we have one in the wings and that we'll release it soon, but it's been like probably a year since we recorded it. So I think we'll definitely release that within the next month or two, and whatever we're going to record, we'll hold that instead. And he said, so he's looking forward to that review. I asked him if he had any suggestions. He said that he would love for some kind of fan section, like fan questions or possible voting on movies to watch or review. So the first thing to say is that one of our Patreon perks is to be able to suggest movies and vote on them as a group, because we realize we cannot take requests as often as we'd want to. Like, even fitting one a month is pretty hard when you're doing one movie per episode. So that's an answer to that. For fan questions, we probably should do that, because I think fan questions are a separate thing than just social media comments.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's a really good observation.
So we'll have to start doing that, just having a question thread on Facebook and Twitter. Another user on Twitter, Dracula @DraculaXUndead, talked to us. His favorite movie is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and anything done by the great Rob Zombie. I call him Robert Zombie.
Bob Zombie.
Yeah, we're really good friends. I call him Bobby Zombie.
Bobby Z.
Bobby Z. So he found us on Apple Podcasts just for searching for horror movies, and he's a new listener, and we appreciate him. And then I think we got Emma, which I already read her review, but I talked to her on Twitter. She said, I just started listening to your podcast this past week, and I'm already caught up. You're literally the only thing getting me through this crazy COVID-19 lockdown. I love all kinds of horror, really, but specifically meta stuff like Scream, Cabin in the Woods, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, etc. But honestly, I'll watch anything. Love you guys. Keep up the good work. And she found us through Spotify.
If you guys, like, we try and keep it pretty on point here in the normal Horror Movie Talk podcast, but we got I don't know. I don't have a lot of time today, but I really want to talk about how stressful this whole thing is on the Afterpod.
Right. Got a couple more people I'll speed through. Z ? His Twitter handle is @BigBumWayne. Better handle.
Classy man.
Yeah, he said yes. He's a big fan of the podcast. He's been listening since November of last year, and his favorite is definitely American Psycho. So he's right in your alleyway, David. He also found us on Spotify. I think about 40% of our listeners listen on Spotify, so that's not too surprising when I hear that. I asked him if he had any input on the show, and he says, to be honest, I think the show is fantastic. You guys are great to listen to. The way the podcast is right now is good, so keep it up. So we really appreciate that. And then oh shoot, we're gonna get a copyright strike. I think the rest of them, there's just new followers, but I don't think I really talk to them that much. Most of them. See, here's what I do on Twitter. This is a peek behind the curtains. So if you follow us, I'm gonna reach out and say like, hey, thanks for the follow. You know, are you a fan of the podcast? What's your favorite horror movie? And the people that are just following us to try to get follow backs, at most they're going to tell me their favorite horror movie, and they're not going to respond to any of the other questions. The real listeners are going to say like, oh yeah, been listening since this time, here's my favorite horror movie. So if you want to talk to us, I'm definitely going to reach out to you if you follow us on Twitter. So there you go.
And with that, that is our episode for today. Guys, I'm going to play us out with our intro because I like listening to it. So deal with it. And
let us know what you think about the new intro by Max. We'd love to hear if you like it as much as we do. Or, you know, if you hate it, that's fine too.
I doubt they'll hate it. And I don't think anybody's going to hate it.
It's not like our original intro was that great anyway, so.
So with that, thank you guys very much for listening to the show. Make sure to share it with a friend. That helps us grow. Also, you can help us out by joining Patreon, listening to our Afterpod on there, or shopping using our Amazon Associates link at the top of our page, horrormovietalk.com. Special thanks to everybody who is staying indoors and, helping mellow out the curve. That's really important to do because the stakes are losing a loved one or someone who you love losing a loved one. And that's no fun. And so, this is a tough time, but we're going to make it through, and we're going to keep watching horror movies, and I goddamn guarantee you there's going to be a whole lot of fucking crazy goddamn horror movies come out of this whole thing. So, on the back end, maybe we'll profit. Who knows? So with that, you guys have a great week. Stay positive. We love you. Bye-bye.
Hello, and welcome to Horror Movie Talk, an opinionated and accidentally funny horror movie review show. Go.
Dr. Bryce Hansen, who holds a PhD in spookology.
Take a stroll through the scraggly woods.
And Professor David Day, the foremost expert in scare no-nos.
Horror!
Sabrina, don't just stare at it, eat it.
New theatrical releases always get priority, but we also review older horror movies, both good and horror.
Wow, that didn't sound good.